I'm ready. We're here. It's Friday. We got lots of nutmeg. We are prepared for the day. We are right now in the Nutmeg Tavern, and I want to welcome you into the Nutmeg Tavern. The fire's going. It's nice and warm in here. It's kind of chilly outside. Okay, I'm lying. It's warm outside, but it's cold in here. Thankfully, the fire doesn't get that hot. I'm your host, John Townsend, and today we're going to be talking about 18th century stuff, which is what we do on the channel. Normally, I am joined behind the bar by Ryan, but I'm not joined today. Ryan's at home doing whatever Ryan's doing, which is fine. But I am helped out by Aaron on the console.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for being here.
There he is. He's making it happen. And there's another guy behind him, which you can't see. Oh, Caleb is back there. He's going to be helping out in the kind of replacement Ryan.
No one can replace Ryan.
No, that's not even possible.
Caleb's going to help with questions. I want to do super chats. And
we need to get like a cardboard cutout for Ryan.
We were talking about that earlier, just in case.
He can be behind the bar.
And I will be making sure people are being nice.
You folks got to be nice in the thing, because today's going to be, well, it's crazy out there, okay? And it's crazy in here too. I'm just going to say it like that. Super thanks to everybody who watched, what days?
Thursdays.
What day was it? Thursday's video. The week is,
yes,
lots going on. So Thursday video, thank you Tariq Khan for the letter that was the inspiration, and I even have it here someplace. Where is it? There it is. There's the recipe. This has been part of the inspiration for this live stream, because people were commenting on the writing, and they wish they could write that well, and this is a challenge to be able to write in that sort of manner. And the other inspiration for that has to do with hold on, I'll find it here. So the book club project they're going to be working on here is the Benjamin Franklin, autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. And we wanted to have a companion sort of notebook that went along with this book for the project, so people could write notes in it and whatever. And I was thinking about that. It's like, okay, well, it can have blank pages, or should it have lined pages? What did people, what do people want today? So I actually created a comment on the Patreon, a poll on Patreon, asked the Patreon folks, hey, if we did this notebook, should it be lined or unlined? And really, it was almost like instantly people said, well, wait, what did they do in the time period? And I was like, okay, yeah, what did people do in the time period? What is common about how people are writing on paper, especially just as individuals, notes for themselves, letters? Today we use, if we just jot down a note, does anybody jot down a note anymore? Do you have a pen? And everybody's using some kind of strange device today. But if we did that today, most likely we would have lined paper. We might write a letter on lined paper, or we would use some mechanical device that would make everything all perfect for us. What did they do in the time period? First, the poll answer on Patreon was that about 60% of people say it should be lined. And then the other 40% say, I don't want it to be lined. Personally, little notebooks that I want to write in, I don't want them to be lined. Because sometimes I write little, and sometimes I write big, and sometimes I write sideways. Depending on what I'm trying to do, I write all kinds of different ways, probably because I'm weird. But what did they do in the 18th century? So I've got a bunch of great images from manuscripts and manuscript writing, letter writing, journal writing, ledgers, cookbooks. What did they look like? What did they actually physically look like, especially when you're just kind of handwriting stuff along? So let's jump in. Let's do it. Give me the first image, Aaron. This is a letter. A high-end letter. This is like a cover letter that somebody in the British government is writing about a military sort of report. This is the cover letter for it. So this is written fare. This would be something where, the higher up would sort of scribble down what his ideas are, and then he'd give this to his secretary to write fare. And this is the fare written copy. And it's not obviously on lined paper, but he's holding pretty true to lines. It's very nicely written, very wonderful hand, but you can still see that it's imperfect. So he didn't say like pencil lines in and then write over them or something strange like that. They also had another method, sort of to get lines on there without making it too obvious, and that was to inscribe the line in with like a metal tool, so that it didn't make a mark physically in color, but made a sort of an embossed line that you would write on. I haven't found any examples of that on any of these. It may be that those disappeared. You can see the lines on this. You can see lines in that if you look very closely, but that's because this is laid paper. Almost all the paper in the 18th century is laid paper, and that those little lines come by the sort of the apparatus that they would use to make the paper in the first place. It had a screen that the pulp fibers would lay down on top of, and they tended to have a bolder little line across. And it could be in the 18th century that you would actually use those laid paper lines to help you make your lines straight.
Someone was saying, where can they download that font? I agree. I wish I had that as a font.
Could write that as a font.
Well, like for thumbnails and stuff. Yeah. It's a great handwriting is awesome.
It's handwriting, yeah. And there are some tools to create fonts from handwriting if you look for them.
That's awesome.
This, let me think.
This person needed the lines.
Yeah, I thought this was great because he starts out straight and then is like slant, slant, slant. This is an agreement between a militia officers and other people, right? So, maybe between the officers and the men, or between the higher officers and the lower officers. I'm not sure exactly what, but you can see the people who are signing on to it at the bottom, although all those signatures are exactly the same. So those aren't signatures, those are just names of people, because obviously the same person wrote the whole thing. But you could see he starts off straight and then it just keeps going down and getting worse and worse. Even the names are sort of at an angle. Yes, he could have used some tool to hold the lines. Again, this is 1779 here, and we could even see this isn't a fair written copy because they've scribbled stuff out. Now maybe they wrote it out and then the officers who had to do this said, no, that part I'm not going to do. So they just scribble that part out. We don't sign on to that. More likely it was just not written properly, and so they just tried to scrub it out. And they didn't want to waste another sheet of paper to create a fair written copy.
Hey, can I real quick get a super chat?
Yes, go for it.
Before we move on. This is from Ashley LeCount. Thank you. My family and I were at Stone's Trace, where I was able to see Brandon demonstrating and chat for a while. It was great. That's awesome.
Excellent.
Glad you got to meet Brandon.
Glad you got to meet
And
Brandon.
then, real quick, let's just throw in likes right now. It'll help with the algorithm, and it's really easy to do, and we really appreciate it. So that's all I have to say for right now.
Yeah.
Let's get back at it.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's do it. And now this is written out. This isn't printed. This is a piece that was written out for like a military report. And some clerk did this amazing job of scribing all the lines in, and he's got the table is built with these lines, but you can see each and every line is drawn separately, and because they're not all exactly the same width apart, they get smaller and larger. How he did that with his pen without it running dry ink, I have no idea. I mean, he probably spent half the day making this document. It would probably take me 3 weeks, even on with modern equipment, to get anything that would look anywhere close to this. So again, some of these things are just, some of these folks are so good at writing things out. It reminds me of the idea of people thinking that sewing before the 18th century or before the 19th century, when they created sewing machines, would look just horrible, with stitches going all over the place. But the stitching, you would get so good at doing it by hand that today we would think someone must have sewn that with a machine. Same deal with this kind of thing. This would take some nice layout work on desktop publishing with a fancy font and laying this all out so everything perfectly lines up. I mean, how did he even know that all those lines were going to stop when they needed to? The table's just right. Again, I'm just flabbergasted by how this all ends up looking. But this is really high-end military, so it's supposed to be nice. Let's see. Now I wanted to get close on something so you could really see, nice and tight. And we can see this. This is just sort of the top half of a journal of the Siege of Charleston. We can see the laid paper in the background. We can see the individual writing, and he's sticking very nicely on these lines. He may be using, again, the laid lines. This is very subtle lines built into the laid paper. Notice the little hand. He puts a little pointing hand in there, sort of like an emoji, check this out, right? And here's the April 10th at the top. It's April 11th and 12th, and it's sort of a summary of what was going on. So there are a lot of these sort of journal entries that are a sort of summarization. And then later on, you'll see as we go through other documents, what happens when you want sort of more detailed. So many times in these sorts of documents, you will have sort of summaries, and then you'll have the tables that the summaries were built from. Again, beautiful handwriting. Mm-hmm. Again, a nice close-up image here of another one of these, let's see, what is it? Abstract of subsistence for the following invalids sent from Charleston. Imagine how many people are in the military in this case, and their job is to create documents like this. Okay, take this thing I scribbled down, turn it into something that looks nice, so we can, push this paper up the line to other people, and they can record this. We can see the lines again written out by hand. They kind of aren't perfect. Sometimes they run out of ink as they go. But the hand is very nicely done. Again, this is a fair written document. Like you would pay somebody maybe 40, 50 years ago to type something out. In this time period, you would pay somebody to write it out. Here's a brigantine. This is the sort of summary of a ship's log for the brigantine of war tyrannicide. And we have the particular day, and then the quick, hey, these kind of gales happened. I grabbed this up because of they are creating a table. They want lines to go straight. So they write out the table for themselves. Probably first they scribe that vertical line, and then as they're writing, they write the horizontal line to kind of hold those boxes together and to keep from sliding down the paper, as we saw in an earlier document. This isn't fair written. Obviously, it's probably written by the person and not, the 13th, nice secretary down the line. Still very super readable. As we continue to go through here, we're going to sort of go down into more and more kind of individuals and what their writing is like and how good they keep on this paper and is it lined or not. Now this is the same logbook, but this is sort of the day to day, so individual, sort of hour 1, hour 2, hour 3 kind of thing here. So I think this is the first 12 hours of the day, second 12 hours of the day. The little table, the K I think is knots. So how hard the wind is, whether it's going, little notes, comments on which direction they're going, where the wind direction is, and then the note for the day, anything specific going on. Let me see. He says, fresh gales at this time. We thick fog. The swell abated. So just little notes on the weather. It's amazing how all the ships would have these kinds of logs, so they could go back and look exactly what's happening. Sort of like, the black box of an aircraft. We're going to record everything. If something bad goes wrong, we know exactly what happened right before it. What was going on with the weather there, and maybe we can even figure out whose fault it is. Or was it anybody's fault if something bad happens?
You have to blame somebody.
That's right. You got to blame somebody. Do
you want to do a little bit of catch up, and then we can come back?
Yes, go for it.
All right. I got a couple super chats to read, and then Caleb's got a couple questions for you. And I don't know if you have any other housekeeping you'd like to do as well. From the
I
past
probably
week.
do.
All right. 1 second. So YouTube's being a pain, so I got to scroll up. There we go. Okay. Derek Temple, thank you. I enjoyed the clay hunt video.
Yeah.
Apart from the usual food and storage pottery, what other types of ceramics were found in your area? And then this is from Niels, I believe. I'm a newcomer, but your recipes have always been a challenge and an invitation to my stove. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks to everyone who watched that clay video. I don't think we've done a live stream since that one came out. I think it was last Saturday.
It's since
different.
Everything's running together here for us. We do so many different kinds of videos now that it's like, okay, when did we do that? What were we here last?
Oh, I did cut that one, I think.
I was like, everything's sort of, we're running on we're kind of running faster now, so it's hard to remember exactly what's been going on. But yeah, so we had the clay video and the Pop-Tart video. If you haven't checked out the Pop-Tart video, do it, because they're right here, and wow.
Yeah.
Those things are incredibly bad for me, is what they were.
Real quick, Robert Green, did they have any rulers or yardsticks in the 1700s?
Yeah. Yes, they did. They had rules, parallel rulers, different kinds of dividers they would use. We'll get to some of these later documents, and we'll see some use of different sorts of rulers, and that'll give us some hints. But they definitely had helper objects that would, for writing in this kind of circumstance out.
I don't think we answered Derek's question about the types of ceramics that were found in our area in the time period.
Yeah, so, the bulk of ceramics tend to be for cooking and kitchen use. But there are other circumstances where you need to use ceramics, sometimes in sort of industrial applications, food storage applications. Again, it's got problems with with transportability, but it has and sort of some kinds of durability issues. But if it's a real static situation, then they're really quite durable. So you would use them for something like storage of pickles or something like that. That wouldn't work very well if you had to move them, but it worked great if they stayed in your basement the whole time. Maybe better, certainly better than if it was in a barrel. But other circumstances, you're gonna find ceramics used in sort of decorative objects. So statuette-y kind of things. They did a lot of that in the 18th century, but the vast majority really is in the cooking or in the eating sort of thing. Also, smoking pipes is another use of ceramics.
Right on. We'll do a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so we have one. So we have one from Wendy Rock. She says that tart video was great. Do you get many letters that inspire you like that?
Yeah, sometimes. I get a lot of mail, and can only sort of interact or certainly answer so much of it. But it's always an inspiration, even if I only get a chance to just read it. And darn. I had a great email that I wanted to read out, which reminds me of that. And I'll just give you the cliff notes because I can't remember the name of the person and I don't have it to read directly, but she was commenting on how helpful the channel has been because they are in Korea and they live in an apartment. Her and her husband live in an apartment that was made for people who just graduated from college and who don't cook, who just eat out. And so the only thing their apartment has in it is one burner, which is even that's retrofitted into the countertop, a very small prep space, and a refrigerator that's only as big as a typical cooler we would have in the United States. So a tiny little fridge and just the bare minimum of anything to cook with. And because the cooking we do tends to be fairly primitive, a lot of it soldier cooking and whatnot, it's helpful. The channel and what we cook is helpful because it's so simplistic, because I have to cook it. And also the comment was talking about a pumpkin soup, which is actually a very similar recipe, is very, very popular in Korea. So really, really neat email that came in with that.
And one of the cool things about that letter was we actually opened it when we shot that video.
Tariq, yeah,
we read there was the letter about the actual letter, but then
Yes.
the recipe, we did not read that until the other
Till we
day,
opened it.
and it was like a live reaction, and we all went, "Oh, good, we can make this," because that was the plan. Was we'll shoot it, and if we can't make it, oh well. But if we can make it, we'll just go make it.
Yeah, we held it back. We kept the interior letter unopened until we could, shoot that at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, that's always fun. What else you got?
This one's from Dwayne. I'm gonna mess this up. I'm not even gonna say it. Dwayne, yeah. How was paper made in the 18th century in North America?
Well, it's going to be made in North America the same way it's going to be made all throughout Europe. They've got a box with a screen on the bottom. Think like, insect screen, just like metal mesh. It's a little bit different than that because it has to, kind of show up with the lines, but something like that. And that's tacked onto the bottom of a shallow box with no bottom on it. And you'll create a bath of paper fibers. So you might use cloth fibers or other paper, even some different kinds of vegetable matter. You chop that up until it's a fine suspended stuff in water, and then you dip that screen down in, move it down in, and then lift it up, and that would fall down to the screen and create a very, very fine layer. You drop that out onto some other paper or some other kind of surface and dry it, flatten it out. Paper is made, today mechanically, industrially, in a very, very similar process, but of course made by the sort of 1 billion times more efficiently than it would have been done in the same time period. Paper was expensive. It was difficult to make. Today we are so spoiled by paper that we can just throw away. It costs us virtually nothing compared to how expensive and difficult it was to get paper in the 18th century.
Let's do a couple super chats. And then if you have anything you want to catch up on, these are real quick.
Okay.
This is from Jay Sanders. Thank you. Doing genealogy, I really appreciate good handwriting. Military records are usually clear. 1700 German church records are a special challenge.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. This is another one from Niels. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. You would not know how many times I tried to make that farce cabbage. Remember that one? I remember that recipe. That was really good. Denise Maloney Pierre, thank you. My parents had good handwriting beaten into them by Catholic school nuns. Considering my writing, the nuns would have killed me. It can't be worse than mine.
Oh,
and then one more. Yours bad too.
Oh, it's horrible.
From Timothy. How much a problem would you and I have been being lefties in writing? Being smeared, was ink mostly used? Were there pencils?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there were pencils. Maybe not the pencils, kind of like what sometimes you'll see sort of the wooden pencil idea, but it's pretty rare. And I never seen very big ones. I've seen little tiny pieces of pencil-like things, but pens are the big thing. And yeah, it's a massive challenge to work left-handed, writing, you're dragging your hand through the wet ink, and I mean, you might be able to write sort of vertically, but yeah, it's a super challenge. I think they mostly really tried to keep trained lefties to write with the right hand, as painful as that may be. Yeah, I wanted to get to the Patreon folks. So some folks support us on Patreon. The brand new Patreon supporters this week, Scott Caputo and Enter 560. Also, some folks pay us with PayPal, which is just sort of a one-off kind of a thing. Christopher Ford is in there, like he is so many times. And then we have brand new people on Townsends Plus. We got a lot of great new folks on Townsends Plus helping us out. And that is sort of a whole platform where you can see some of the special content that we do here, like what we do on YouTube, but different and more. So Townsends Plus folks, Joseph D, Samantha L, Robert L, Dina S, Robert D, Michael P, Matt D, Rosemary C, Jeffrey D, Martin M, Marvin M, Adam W, James T, Richard G, Christopher G, Angela K, Margaret R, and Christy E are brand new Townsends Plus. So there are links down in the description section if you want to check that out. The Patreon link, the PayPal link, and of course, townsensplus.com.
Thanks to everyone who signed up. That's a lot of new people.
Yep.
It's awesome.
And it really helps everything work here. Just be impossible to do without all that kind of wonderful support. So
just a quick reminder to keep liking the video. I have a couple more, but I say we get back into
let's do it.
Picks, and then we'll come back. Make sure I got the right one. Is that it? Is this where it should be?
This one is so cool. Let me see. I got a printout of this one, right? This one's 1780, and I'm sorry if it's so small that you can't see it, what's going on here. But there are two columns, and I got this because it was nice and lined, and you can see someone I obviously was like, okay, how do I line this out? How am I going to read this out? This probably had to be written multiple times, and this is one of the copies. And what this is it's a password, or it's a password sheet, right? For like spies or for coming in and out of a different areas. So it's the call and response. So the sentry says, what are you about there? And the countersign is, we are engaged. And then the second one is, did you see this? Did you see the meteor? And the countersign is, I saw the comet. This is so cool. I mean, I don't know what this was used for, whether it was used for, spy situations or, whatnot, but we get to see something written out fairly nicely. They probably, because you didn't want to print it out, right? It's like, okay, we need just 10 copies for these, these guys. So they copied them out over and over again, wrote out the lines, and here that all is. 1780, this is Rev War period.
Next one?
Yes. This is now okay. It's so subtle it can be hard to see this, but look at how the lines are done here. So the writing is ink, but there are multiple lines vertically and horizontally, and those horizontal lines are pencil. You can see how it rubs over the paper fibers, and there are different colors here. I think. In the original on the screen when I could see it, it looks like standard sort of graphite or gray-black running horizontally, and I believe the vertical lines are red. And this is a catalog of items that are being sent or that are available for auction. So it's like this person, the owner here died, and they're selling this item. So an agate onyx snuff box, metal mounted, with setting gold, which forms a necklace, a silver gift case, an adoration of the Magi, a gold antique watch, a small watch. So it's a collection of sort of fancy objects that are going to be up for sale.
This handwriting is just
Yeah.
all the handwriting we've seen is just makes
Well,
me so
don't worry.
embarrassed.
Don't worry. There's going to be some later on that isn't quite so embarrassing.
Okay, or for us.
Yes, for us.
Embarrassing.
For us. This is, let's see, of the vessels which have been most something by the enemy, and see, it's like a little hard to read here. In stores from destruction until, yeah, so it's just a standard kind of letter. This is probably a fairly small little book. My guess is about 4 by 5 on the page. That's why the writing is kind of big, because actually we're looking at kind of the page blown up, but it's just sort of notes as they go along. He is pretty good at holding the line, although this is probably just written for himself. He did a great job. I wish I could write for myself that nicely. I don't think it's a report. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out which one this is. This is an orderly book. Sorry, this is an orderly book, so he is expecting other people to read this. And this is a captain in the military writing this one out. Now, here's an interesting idea. Now, this is obviously handwritten out music. Handwritten out music is the thing that they line paper for in the 18th century before about 1770. So there's an English patent for lining paper at about 1770, but they were lining paper for different purposes earlier than that. If we look closely at this, the vertical or the horizontal lines here, they have some little sort of fork-like object that can dip in the pencil, dip in ink, and draw them across. And if you look at different spots, sometimes they wiggle a little bit, and all 5 lines wiggle at once. This page doesn't necessarily have too many obvious things like that. So they had this blank piece of paper that was like that, and then they put in the vertical measure marks where the measures would be, and then wrote their music on top of that. And even this looks pretty darn readable. I don't read music a lot, but I mean, you could get through this and figure out what they were trying to achieve with this written music. This is a piece, I believe it's 18th century, and it's an Italian opera that's written out. And there's a whole document like this. It's just lots and lots of pages of this same material. Here's a merchant's ledger, and he's got the paper comes in sort of like fool's cap. It's got the horizontal or the vertical lines, and then he'll come in and do horizontal lines just to break up particular days. And it's just notes about what things were being sold in a particular month. It looks like they all sold on a particular day, I think. I looked at it super closely, but they have big breaks in them. So September 1777 is in the top, and then it's like months later, April of the next year, when things get written out in the next section, and then another April, and then October. So we can see the handwriting changes. So it's sort of an account book, but they're coming back to it with much later in the time period. You can see the writing is very, very different from the top to the bottom. Sometimes you'll see some of these and you can see different people wrote in them as they went. Oh, this is, oh yeah. This is a, oh, don't throw that down, John. This is a manuscript cookbook. So this is where, I mean, if there's a lot more kind of harder to do work on the cooking here on the channel, this is where it's found. Manuscript cookbooks of the time period, of which there are a lot more available now than there used to be, and more of this stuff coming online all the time. And it looks like they almost used some sort of fool's cap blank paper, or possibly even a common, thank you, Lauren, even a commonplace book, but they turned it into a cookbook. So let's see, the top one is, what is that? Carp something or pike. Carp roasted or pike roasted. Or an apple pudding, or a hippocras drink. So let's see what the bottom one is. Take a half a pound of currants, 3 ounces of long pepper, which is cool. We haven't talked about long pepper on the channel. 6 ounces of cinnamon, 2 ounces of ginger, an ounce of nutmeg. Oh yeah, a sprig of rosemary, lemon slice, I think. 6 quarts of something. Painted something, but not powder. I don't know about that one. 6. So you can see what a challenge it would be to dig into some of these. Just occasionally you'll run into a word and you're like, okay, what is that? 6 pounds of some kind of sugar, 6 gallons of sack, something, milk and sugar. Let it set 6 days, maybe. Gosh. See, this is going to be tricky to dig into these, but there are multiple collections of manuscript cookbooks that would be that takes a lot of research to get into those. Check this next one out.
Oh, I thought you were going to read it.
Hello. Okay. This is English. I know, you're looking at that going, what?
Yeah, I wrote this.
Yeah. But you can kind of tell at the bottom. It says, by your honors, honorably something. I can't read it. This is earlier writing. This is maybe 15th, 16th century, and whoever's writing is, kind of fancy, and he's putting lots of dots, and it's got the, the little superscript E's and strange things going on. It makes it much more difficult to read. Maybe they were good at reading this. The person in the comments earlier, or in the chat earlier, said something about German records, right? German church records of the 18th century.
1700s.
They tended to write with a medieval script in the German church in the 18th century, and it is tremendously difficult to read unless you're used to it. So it's something you really got to sort of read a lot of it before you can even figure out what the letters are. And then you have to, be able to read German at the same time. Not easy for us to do in the time period. So it's handwritten, and it's in a weird sort of medieval script, and it's German. Yeah, I can see that would be just, and this is very similar, and it's kind of okay. It would take me a while to translate this out. So, it's got some strange words in it. It's got a strange way of writing the letters, but and notice, go back to the image there. Look around the outside edge on this. He's got lines to hold everything in on the 2 edges, the 2 margins, basically what we would call them, and the top. And that helps him sort of hold the lines so that they stay vertical, or horizontal, I'm sorry. So that they stay level, maybe is what I should call it. Again, wow, wouldn't it be great to be able to write, legibly so we would understand the letters, but be able to write like this, a real challenge. Tariq did an excellent job of doing something just like that.
Let's do a couple
Yeah.
super chats. And then we'll kind of go from there. This is from A. Kim. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but how different was food for officers and generals from what regular soldiers ate? Could this be an idea for a video? Deborah Scotland, thank you. Great video last week with Tariq's letter and the 18th century Pop-Tarts. Love seeing work on the homestead. Any new projects in the pipeline? Oh yeah. Then I got one more.
You're getting ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll go over them again. From Sean. First time I attend a live in a while.
Hey.
Nice. Yeah.
Welcome in.
Yeah. Your products are wonderful. I have been using your flint and steel for scouting events. Thank you for the videos. Thank you. Okay, let me go up to that top
What was that
one
first
again.
one?
The first one was like soldier. What
Oh, yeah.
soldiers ate.
Difference
We've actually
between soldier
done that.
and officer.
Or difference, yeah.
Yeah. Massive. I'll just say it. It's massive. So the difference between sort of long held provisions, especially in shipboard life, or in very the simplest, constantly the same food for the officer or for the soldiers, and then the officers, they have enough money and a wherewithal that they're supplying their own mess, as it were, and they have, whatever they can afford, and usually it's so much better than the individual soldiers. It's not even funny. So there's basically almost nothing that is the same between officer food and enlisted man's food. Homestead projects. The big one that's coming up is shingles, because, boy, I tell you what, that cabin will not last another minute with the roof it's got on it. So that's our big project that's coming up next.
We had a meeting on for Brandon, John, and Ryan about the physical element of it, and then we met about the video element. And someone in the meeting said, "Well, when we strip the roof, we'll have to hurry in case it rains." But I stuck my head in there the other day. It doesn't matter.
No, it's like, this is the current roof. Rain, no, you couldn't tell the difference whether you had the roof or not. Yeah.
But that was always a temporary roof.
Yes,
even
it was.
in the documentation we read.
Someone sneaked up and gave me the letter. Angela Call, I think it is, and she enjoys the being able to cook with the single fire and basic tools by modern standards, and the interesting Korean pumpkin recipe. You start with small green pumpkins that people get in Korea about the size of a head. You peel it, you chop it up rather fine, removing the seeds. Saute 1 onion in butter, using either a medium soup pan or a wok. When the onion gets translucent, throw in your pumpkin and saute until it gets all mushy. Mash the pumpkin and the onion over the stove, adding milk or heavy cream until it's a porridge consistency. Served best with buttered toast and a fried egg. So, yeah, sounds very, very simple, similar. Thank you, Angie. So,
Caleb's got a good question.
Great.
Kind of encompasses everything we're talking about.
Yeah, so in the chat they were talking about preserving paper, documents, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they were commenting on how these documents you're showing look amazing. How did they preserve these and keep them in such good condition? There it is.
They didn't have that back then.
This is a document from the 17. This is 1804. Here is 1797. There you go. Ship records. So this is a bill for the items it took to repair a ship. So you're always having to repair ships constantly. Imagine your car, but it needs the engine overhauled every 2 months, right? The reason why these are still in the shape they're in is because they're paper that they're made out of. So the paper we have today, it's made massively inexpensively, industrially, and they use a lot of sort of harsh chemicals, especially to make white paper, right? It takes a lot of bleach, and they use acids and all this crazy stuff to break the fibers down so that they can make this gorgeous paper, super smooth and But it also makes it so it's not long lasting. So our paper can deteriorate rather rapidly. While it's very, very inexpensive, the quality compared to this 18th century paper is just incredibly bad. But we don't care, we don't care how long it lasts because we generally throw the junk away. So much paper. This is lasting because it is made by hand and not using all those harsh chemicals.
Somebody want to know, are you not able to handle the ones in that plastic thing? Is that just...
No, it's just in the plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any problem with handling it.
Sure. I had one more super chat. Well, let me make sure. Yeah. Speed and Style Tony, thank you. Love the letter recipe video. Plan on trying the tarts as part of my holiday baking. Yes. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, I think the dough on that stuff, or the paste on it, is hilarious because it's like, you would have, and it's just not like pie crust at all. Just totally not like it. It's like, well, you do this and then blah, it's so much easier to, it's a fun recipe to do, and I like to do it.
That was a video shoot that it came up down to the wire as far as like, how do we even do this dough?
Yeah.
The shoot almost got delayed.
Yeah.
Thankfully it did.
So check out the next image, Aaron. I love this one. I mean, when I was pulling these documents up, I'm just getting like a thumbnail image, right? And I see this one, it's like, oh yes, this one's perfect. Because it's just, the person's not right. It's like they're writing in cursive, but they're not connecting the letters together. So it's almost like a jumble of letters, like a jigsaw puzzle of letters dropped onto the page. This is a recipe for pineapple wine. Pineapple wine. Is that crazy? What? Oh man. It might take me like a week to, write it out so that I could read it, but who knows? Maybe we'll have to try to make some pineapple wine. Be something we could drink here in the tavern.
Pineapple wine.
Pineapple wine. Probably some expensive stuff in this time period. Wow. Here's another Manuscript Cookbook. And notice, now this is great. Notice how crazy different the top one is to the bottom one. And I believe what we've got here is a cookbook that possibly different people are writing the recipes in for this person. So, it's like Aunt Mary's visiting and she's like, well, you should know how to make pineapple wine. Here, let me write this in your cookbook for you. And so we have different people writing different things. To dry, I can't even read that top one because they're right. It says something. The bottom one is possibly raspberry jelly by Mrs. Chambers, and that one's 10 times more readable. You can see what's going on with this top one though. That the ink and how maybe it was just a really badly cut quill, but they're really fighting the quill there. Or maybe the ink is, crappy, whatever, but they're having a real hard time writing. Maybe the person just, isn't really good at that. But yeah, and look, her lines are all over. The bottom person, they're able to really stick within those lines, stay right and straight. And the top person obviously doesn't have as much experience. This is let me see. This is medical manuscript notes for Benjamin Rush. So here's a doctor, and he's writing out individual things going on. State of fever, and he's explaining what they're doing. Many fevers are with connection, particularly in children. They always initiate great, so pretty readable, especially for a doctor. But this is what medical notes are like. And fairly small little notebook. Again, paper's expensive. There we go. Check this out. Wow. Red, possibly pencil marks, using to hold these lines in. Beautiful, really neat looking writing. to the upright, honorable, somebody, again, nicely fair written, but very, very, with those big slashing lines in it. It seems like the writing's got a lot of emotion to it, or, it's a very flamboyant writer. I don't know what to say. Somebody who's got a lot of energy. Cool writing. And boy, did they stick, still very, very good at the holding the line, as I would say. Now let's just go one more. Yes, another Manuscript Cookbook. To Make Plum Cake. And again, very nicely written out, beautiful, probably just a person writing for their own, in their own cookbook. So cool. I even added a recipe here. I didn't have it in images. For a Friday soup. Take 2 quarts of water, half a pound of butter, peppercorns, a little salt, half a manchet loaf, and you boil these in your pot for an hour. Then you break the bread small and put in such herbs as are in season: lettuce, sorrel, asparagus, young something, can't read it. For want of these, if it's not in season, corn salad, whatever that might be, parsley, cabbage, which requires more boiling. Always put in some shallot when it's almost enough. Take 3 anchovies, boil them in a little claret, strain them, so you don't want the anchovies floating in this thing. With a lump of butter, you whisk it up. You put that on to boil one more time. Then you have the toasts of bread dipped in cream and fried in butter. Oh yeah. And then you kind of put the soup on top of that. That is a Friday soup, right from the manuscript. Whew. See, just one little tiny thing and it led me into just mountains of great fun research. And it's just, not, we're not even talking about the content so much as how would they write it out? What did it look like?
Yeah. But I think that's one of the fun things about kind of what we do is the super nitty gritty details. Like that they use lined paper.
Yeah.
That's always fun to look into. Got a super chat, and then I think we can start wrapping it up. John Talley, thank you so much. Off-topic question, what material did you use in your indoor kitchen? How was the fire made on your counter without burning the place down? How would I make something like that? Take it away, John.
Yeah, the interior walls are meant to emulate sort of maybe stone walls or brick walls that are covered with sort of plaster. And the plaster in the time period might have plaster, or it might just be done with clay, sand, different kinds of soil like that. Ours is just this is just meant to look like it because I didn't have time 10 years ago to build an entire building. So this is just mortar mix put on the walls with, netting and whatnot. And I just made it, emulating those sorts of aspects. So most of it is made like that. Very, very sturdy and fireproof and all that kind of good stuff. The fireplace area, the bench top or the top there's made in similar as in the period pieces. It's got fire brick on top. So you can cook on top of that surface all day long. Those are fire bricks, and then underneath them is a layer of sand, like an inch of sand, and then a metal surface underneath that, and then wood underneath that surface. So I've never had any problem with it even getting warm underneath. That's how all that set is made.
Now smoke.
Now smoke, yeah, it smokes like crazy, but that's just because the fireplace chimney or the chimney for that now has been overgrown with trees, and it's hard to get a good draft when you have giant trees. I don't know what to do. Cut them all down.
Yep. Max are cool. Happy Friday. Hey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Show off the Pop-Tart as you sign us off.
So here's the one. We actually made this one in the video, the square one with the open top, and here is the closed little Pop-Tart, and we just ripped that open. Taffety tart here, and you can see the yummy interior. Still good.
Do your sign off while you're chewing.
A great kind of dough to work with. Check it out. It's really, really easy to make. It might look like weird and sloppy, but it worked great. So check it out. It's fun stuff to work with. I want to thank everyone, especially you folks here and now in the live stream. Thank you for being here with us today. It's always great to come in Friday afternoon and get to interact with everybody, hear all the wonderful comments, and check them out later on. And other people get to enjoy those too. So thank you for coming into the live stream here and now. Thank you all you folks, Super Chat folks who are helping us monetarily. Also Patreon, PayPal, Townsends Plus, merch, whether it's on our website or whatnot. All these things are available. And each and every one of those things helps us make one more great video that other people get excited by. You're helping us make those videos so that people all around the world can check it out. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching videos. Thank you for comments. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Aaron and Caleb and Ryan. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.